Thank you everyone who's joining us for our first of our outreach info sessions for the CalTestBed 2021 cohort. Applications are opening today on February 25th, and they will be open until March 19th. And we're looking forward to getting a lot of great applications from companies throughout California. Today, I am going to go over an overview of what the CalTestBed program is, talk about program eligibility, how the program works once you are selected, what the review and selection process looks like, an application timeframe, and what the agreement structure looks like. And then my colleague from UC Davis, Ben Finkelor, is here to talk about some of the capabilities at the UC Davis campus, and then we'll have time for some Q&A at the end of our webinar today. So the CalTestBed program is funded by the California Energy Commission, and it's a laboratory voucher program that aims to provide access to world-class testing facilities to clean energy entrepreneurs throughout California. We're looking to help accelerate these companies towards commercialization, and doing this through allowing them to de-risk their innovations at these amazing facilities that are in our network. CalTestBed provides vouchers of up to $300,000 in testing at one of 60 test beds throughout our network. And you can see from the logos on the bottom, the California Energy Commission funds the program. It is administered by me, Tenley Dahlstrom, at New Energy Nexus, with my colleague who is also on the line here, Olivia Heitz. We are working in partnership with 9 campuses of the University of California, and in partnership with the University of California Office of the President, and also in partnership with Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. Our 2 subcontractors on this particular project are Momentum, who helps us with a lot of our reporting and strategy work, and Lacey, who is down in LA, who's been a tremendous partner in helping us facilitate our 2020 CalTestBed Symposium. So the benefits of CalTestBed are that entrepreneurs can get a voucher worth between $10,000 and $300,000 for use at one of the participating test beds to cover the cost of testing their technology. We have a powerful network of cumulative resources throughout our laboratory network, but also through the New Energy Nexus network and the carefully curated ecosystem of the California Energy Commission. We also have cultivated a lot of customer groups and commercialization partners that we connect our CalTestBed companies to. And there are additional funding opportunities through the Empower Innovation Network platform that we encourage all of our companies to join in on and pay attention to for events, funding opportunities, and partnership opportunities. Our regional innovation cluster, I mentioned the California Energy Commission has carefully curated an ecosystem, and these 4 organizations are the 4 regional organizations and accelerators that we work with as New Energy Nexus throughout the state of California. So Lacey works down in the Los Angeles region. Activate is up in the Bay Area. Blue Tech Valley is in the Central Valley, and Southern California Energy Innovation Network is down in San Diego. We as an ecosystem have monthly calls to coordinate and support each other in our work, because really the California Energy Commission is trying to create a very supportive environment for clean energy entrepreneurs, and a lot of collaboration between all of these organizations, because they see this the clean energy transition as a rising tide that lifts all boats. It's not a competitive environment. It is a really supportive environment. We also have some other tremendous partners like Stephanie Yanchinsky at the Rocket Fund, and their applications are still open and they are not exclusive. So if you are applying to the Rocket Fund, you can also apply to the CalTestBed program. So talking about eligibility, what types of innovations will CalTestBed fund? So CalTestBed is really focused on mid to later stage technologies that are in technology readiness level between 5 and 7. So we're looking for companies that already have a prototype and they are ready to test their prototype and de-risk it in a laboratory setting. And so as you see here, the TRL 5, 6, and 7 are the eligible areas for the technologies that we're looking for. We will also only consider hardware and integrated solutions that fit into one of the 10 technology types that we've defined. And to more granularly define an integrated solution, it must feature a piece of hardware that works in conjunction with a software program to deliver the technology's benefits. And there already has to be an existing prototype for either of these technology types, because we will not be funding standalone software solutions. And I know this is very tiny type, but these are our 10 technology types and the definitions of each of the technology types that are eligible under this program. There's building technologies, energy efficiency, energy storage, grid technologies, industrial and agricultural innovations, Internet of Things, material-based technologies, renewable generation, transportation, and water technologies. And all of these technologies and definitions are also included in our application manual, which is available online right now. Further, in the eligibility criteria, CalTestBed's open to applicants working on innovations with existing prototypes, and that they're designed to provide benefits to California ratepayers. This program is funded by EPIC funding, which is the Electric Program Investment Charge, which is a small charge on every California IOU ratepayers bill. And so since this program is funded by the people of California, by the ratepayers of California, the benefits of this program are intended for the ratepayers of California. And these benefits include reduced costs for California ratepayers, increased grid reliability, and safety improvements for the California grid. Other eligibility requirements include the TRL level from 5, 6, or 7, and that they all, that the technology listed has the capabilities within the CalTestBed facility directory. So we need to make sure that the tests that the entrepreneur wants to conduct are current capabilities within our network. So entrepreneurs should really look at the CalTestBed facilities directory, identify their top 3 laboratories that they would like to work at based on the capabilities that are listed in the directory. And I know the directory is extensive, but it's pretty easy to look through and see where your innovation might fit in and determine whether the capabilities exist for the testing you want to conduct. The program's open to both individuals and teams, to businesses, so that's startups and small businesses and even larger companies, and also to nonprofit organizations. This is a newly defined characteristic of eligibility in this program, in that universities are not eligible to apply as just a university. The reason for that is the CEC has made it very clear that they want to make sure that this is not just a research project, that they are funding companies that are looking to commercialize these technologies. And they really want to make sure that these funds and this support goes to companies that will, hire people within the state of California and provide benefits to the ratepayers. So how does CalTestBed work? So the general process is that you will create a login in our online portal. You will then determine your eligibility and you'll fill out your application online. And then once the application period ends, there is an eligibility review, and then we have a technical review. We have a pool of subject matter experts from around the country who are assigned to each application. There are 3 reviewers per application that provide a numeric score. So once your application has been deemed eligible and is submitted for the technical review, these subject matter experts provide the scoring. And it's very clear what parts of the application are scored. And we have clearly defined that in the application manual as well. Once the technical reviewers provide all their scores, we look at the overall scoring for the entire application pool and have a final discussion for recommendations from each region in California. So there's 4 regions, and we take the top scoring in each region to recommend for then the next stage, which is a laboratory scoping consultation. This scoping consultation, once an applicant has become a recommended applicant, then they are paired with one of their preferred laboratories to have a discussion with the principal investigator, and there's an independent party that's involved as well. And they determine a statement of work, which includes a scope, schedule, and budget. And once an applicant is recommended, we do everything in our power to ensure that they get the testing that they have requested. If a applicant is unable to get their budget under the $300,000 limit, they are eliminated from the program. If it's impossible to do the work that they required in under the cost limit or within the time frame of 9 months from start to finish in the laboratory, they can still be eliminated during that scoping consultation process. Finally, once we get all of the statements of work, they are submitted to the CEC for review and approval, and all of the applicants that are approved are notified. And then we start the signing of all of the agreement packages. So we award the voucher, and the voucher is these agreement packages that are signed by the campuses, the entrepreneurs, and New Energy Nexus. And then we can begin the testing as it's scheduled. So interested parties, as I mentioned, will apply on the caltestbed.com website. That will take you to a portal. It's called a Smart Simple portal, where you'll create a login and fill out your application. Now, part 1 of the application includes a set of eligibility questions and some information about your organization and your technology and your intended testing protocol. Part 2 of the application is a longer form response to 4 different scoring categories, including innovation, scalability, feasibility, and market potential. And each of these responses is limited to 500 words. And these are the 4 criteria that are scored by the technical reviewers. Now, an important note is that you'll be required to select your top 3 choices from the participating testbed partners in terms of your testing facilities. And so you really do need to familiarize yourself with the laboratories and the capabilities in the facilities directory. Within the technical review, each one of these areas are scored at the same weight. So innovation, feasibility, scalability, and market potential are all given the same weight in terms of scoring. And then the averages of the scores are all put together. And then there's a final average for each organization. And that's how we determine which one of the companies will be recommended in each one of these regions. I mentioned the 4 regions of California before, and these are widely used in both CalSeed and other California Energy Commission funded efforts. The San Francisco Bay Area is in the red zone. The Central Valley area is in the blue. Greater Los Angeles is in the yellow, and Greater San Diego is in the green. The applicant region will be determined based on the official business address that the applicant provides. I mentioned the laboratory scoping consultations. Once the testing capability is confirmed by the proposed lab, a 1.5 to 3 hour consultation will be scheduled with the principal investigator, as I mentioned. And the outcome of that consultation is the statement of work, which I mentioned previously, which includes the project scope, a schedule, but not specific dates for the schedule, like the time frame that's necessary to conduct the testing. How many weeks will the testing take? Because we cannot schedule exact dates until after we have the agreement signed. And we don't know, sometimes there's holdups in the agreements. So when we're doing these laboratory scoping consultations, the schedule is just an estimated number of weeks that the testing will take. And then the budget is defined by the laboratory itself. Because all of the funds go directly to the campus, directly to the labs, and not to the entrepreneurs, and the laboratory staff are the only ones who really know how to estimate a budget for the testing protocol that's been defined. The laboratory is in charge of creating the budget for any of these applicants that are recommended. So then, as I mentioned, there's a voucher approval process that the CEC reviews and approves. We execute the agreement package, and then entrepreneurs are able to begin work. Now, I also want to note that not all entrepreneurs go to the laboratories to conduct the work side by side with the PIs. Some of the entrepreneurs, send the information and send the materials needed, and the laboratory staff members complete the testing on their own and then just provide results. Particularly in this time of COVID, a lot of the testing has been scheduled like that. But there's also some COVID protocols for folks who are going into the lab, and we need to make sure that we follow all of those protocols for each campus. Now, some important dates for the CalTestBed application process. As you know, the application window is opening today on February 25th. It is be open until March 19th. The deadline for all the applications is at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, March 19th. As I mentioned, there's the initial review process, which will take between March 29th and May 14th for our technical reviewers to review. And between March 19th and March 29th is when we conduct our eligibility review. The laboratory consultations will begin the week of June 21st, 2021. And that period extends for several weeks. We want to make sure that there's enough bandwidth at the laboratories, because the folks at the labs are doing more than just CalTestBed. They have a lot of responsibilities, and there are a lot of other projects and work that they are doing. So we're trying to make sure that there is a wide time frame for conducting these consultations, so that they are not crunched or have a lack of availability. So the consultations start the week of June 21st. And then as we get the draft scopes of work, we submit them on a rolling basis to the CEC. There's 3 defined deadlines that we're going to send 3 batches to the CEC as these statements of work are ready. And so now I just want to mention quickly what the agreement structure looks like. So you can see here that the California Energy Commission has given a grant to CalCEF. That's our legal entity name that is on our agreements, but we are still branded as New Energy Nexus. So New Energy Nexus gets a grant from California Energy Commission. Our organization has signed agreements with each of the 10 campuses that we are working with. So 9 UC campuses and the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab campus. We have signed agreements that are called the user agreement for test beds. Those only need to be signed once. We have all of them signed, so that piece is already taken care of. Then once we have recommended applicants and everybody's approved, then we have stage 2, where the user agreement for entrepreneurs, that is signed between the testbed facility or the campus and the entrepreneur. And that will include a signed statement of work that has been approved by the CEC. That's as an addendum to that agreement. Then the entrepreneur will sign a voucher recipient agreement with CalCEF, which also includes that signed statement of work as an addendum, which ties all of these agreement packages together, or agreement pieces together, to make one agreement package. And I know it's very complex, but we have been very, very careful, and the University of California Office of the President has been very flexible with the IP considerations in these agreements. We are working very hard to ensure that we protect the entrepreneur's IP as much as possible, and we have a lot of language in these agreements surrounding that IP protection, and making sure that any confidential information that the entrepreneur wants to protect, that there's a mechanism for the protection of that information. And finally, I have a few resources that applicants might want to look at. The first one is the application manual, and that includes information about all of the eligibility, and all of the application questions are also included in this manual. So if you want to do a dry run where you're just filling out all the application questions in a Word document, just as a rough draft before you put them into the platform, you can use the application manual, because every question is actually listed within that application manual. There's also the facilities directory, so that you can use that as a reference to determine which labs capabilities suit the type of testing that you're looking for. And then we also have a video if anybody's having trouble setting up their account login, and you see this image in the bottom right corner. That's what the login page looks like. If anybody has an issue setting up that login, there's the link to make sure that you get a step-by-step, click-by-click video that will help you get logged in and set up your account. So on that note, I want to say thank you, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to my colleague, Ben. And Ben, if you want to share your screen, perfect. Ben, you're on mute.
All right, did that work? I think so. All right, great. Thank you, Tenley, and thank you to New Energy Nexus for all the work that you do to make the CalTestBed program possible. I will say that we've had a really fantastic experience working with Tenley and her team. To kind of, it can be challenging to go through any kind of contracting for these types of things, and they make it as smooth as possible, and it's really great communication. And there is some back and forth, but in terms of, as she mentioned, all the steps, but I think it's really managed well, and we really appreciate it, certainly on the lab side. And we're looking forward to potentially working with you. So I think you already mentioned there's a number of different universities and facilities that are available. I'm going to talk about UC Davis. My name is Ben Finklor. Oops, my name is misspelled somehow, but not a big deal. It's E-L-O-R. But anyways, I'm the executive director for the Energy and Efficiency Institute, which is at UC Davis. And the Institute has actually been, we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary this year. And underneath our umbrella, we have a number of research centers and facilities, 3 of which are featured in CalTestBed as resources for testing technologies. And so I'm going to go through each 3 of those and share a little bit about their capabilities. I won't go into too much detail, but I will make sure that these slides are available for Tenley to post online in case people want to look through it and read through it in detail. And of course, there's contact information for each of our labs. There's 3 labs I'm going to talk about: our Cooling Efficiency Center, our Lighting Technology Center, and our Green Technology Lab, which does work on batteries and fuel cells. Each of those are going to have their own contact information. The contact information for those kind of lab folks are kind of on their website. We can also make sure I'm embarrassed I didn't put my contact information here, but we can make sure that you have access to that as well if you have any questions. So without further ado, I'll talk about our Western Cooling Efficiency Center. And full disclosure, this is not a picture of Teresa. I don't know why. I've noticed that each of our PR, the point of contact is Teresa Pisticchini, but this is not a picture of Teresa, and that's a common theme, I guess, as I was looking through this PowerPoint. But so you can see our contact information here. But basically, even though our lab is called the Western Cooling Efficiency Center, we actually do work in pretty much heating and cooling and any kind of HVAC technology. And our mission is to develop and commercialize kind of these HVAC solutions. And again, we work on some technology that we develop ourselves, but most of the time it's working with other people's technology. And so we're thrilled to be able to test promising new technologies. And we've been doing this for almost 15 years at the Cooling Center. This is one of the first centers we started. It was probably about 12, 13 years. So let's see, and we do kind of have experience looking at things from a behavioral standpoint as well. And so we're obviously just going to test your technology, but I think you'll find that the insight and perspective that we have is quite valuable for any kind of HVAC related project. So within our laboratory, which is packed full of devices, we've got hot and chilled water, we've got outdoor air, we've got natural gas and electricity. The natural gas is used for, of course, creating hot environments that we need to use. But we also have the ability to be pretty nimble in designing and constructing both laboratory testing apparatuses, so the physical kind of structures that we would need to test a technology, as well as coming up with a new test procedure. That's also really important, is understanding sometimes you have, because it's a new technology, it may need a new way to test it. And so that's something that we're capable of doing. We have an in-house kind of laboratory environmental chamber that's pretty capable of recreating 95% of the climates that we face in California. Primarily, we've been focused on rooftop kind of air conditioning units, right? And so they don't go bigger than 8 tons. But we've been able to test a variety of different technologies. There's a list there. We started out focusing on evaporative cooling devices, but variable speed fan and compressor control, sub-wet bulb evaporative chillers I mentioned, cooling towers, heat pumps, including a gas engine heat pump. Actually, I think that's one we're testing as part of CalTestBed, and then microchannel evaporators as well. So again, I'm not going to read this in detail. It's just another way of talking about the same capabilities. But basically, if you have an HVAC related technology, you probably want to reach out to us to get it tested. Okay. Again, this is not Corey Jackson, not a picture of Corey Jackson. She looks a little bit different, but she's the point of contact for our lighting technology center. And our lighting center has actually been around longer than our institute. It was really a model for what we've done with our cooling center, and we have the various programs that we have. It's now located in a 12,000 square foot facility. So we've got a lot of space to test a variety of daylighting and lighting technologies. And really that's the mission, is to accelerate. And much like the cooling center, we do develop some of our own technology, but most of the time we spend is working with other people's technologies. So we have a lot of experience, both testing and supporting the demonstration of these new technologies. Unfortunately, we have our own campus. I neglected to mention this. Oftentimes our campus is the first customer for a lot of the technologies that we view as really promising. So we have HVAC technologies and lighting technologies tested and demonstrated. Once we get it out of the lab, we get it into the field. That's not part of this program, by the way. This is just focused on the lab testing. But maybe it's a 14,000 square feet. Geez, it's grown. I thought it was 12, but it's 14,000 square feet. And we do, like our cooling center, we have the capability of designing both test apparatus, so creating a new facility to test a particular technology, because again, if it's a new technology, it may not be a standard way to test it. And so it's both apparatus for testing and then a test procedure. And so we have experience developing that. And again, similarly, we have a lot of experience, and so we have connections both to utilities and customers and installers, and so that's helpful, often helpful perspective that you get as part of the package when you work with us. So as far as equipment that we can test for lots of different issues: flicker, power factor, audible noise, color rendering, even air quality implications, thermal conditions for products. We've got 5 different integrating spheres of different sizes and different capabilities. Some can test daylighting, and some can test just standard bulbs. And then we also have 2 gonophotometers, one small and one large, which also gives us a lot of flexibility to test various light sources. So lighting, same kind of thing. If you've got a lighting, I think we're the largest. There's 2 publicly owned kind of lighting laboratories in the country. One is at RPI in New York, and one is here at UC Davis. And so we can be a pretty good resource for you on the lighting side. All right, again, this is not a picture of Jaewon Park. This is actually Ryan Barr, one of his students, but Jaewon is the principal investigator and kind of leader of the Green Technology Laboratory. And so he's got over 10 years of experience working on battery technologies as well as fuel cells. And so not only does he have that experience, but he also has access to facilities which can test various technologies related, again, to batteries and fuel cells. So I'll kind of walk through a little bit about his capabilities, but we do have access to our McClellan Nuclear Research Center, which it's not nuclear energy, so you don't try to test your nuclear energy technology with us, but it's used for in situ neutron radiography, which allows you to get take a closer look at what's actually happening inside fuel cells and batteries. We also have a fully automated fuel cell and battery test stations, which I think that's the most likely kind of technology that likely apparatus that we would probably use to test a technology that you might have. We also do have a machining center, so we can create, again, build kind of whatever we would need to either prototype something or more likely create some sort of apparatus to accommodate testing your technology. And then I won't pretend to know actually some of the technical details of a bitrode battery pack tester versus a multi-channel Arbin battery tester. But basically, we've got different environmental chambers and different channels that we can kind of charge and discharge batteries on for testing. And also managing batteries as well. So as you go through that, the last thing I'll mention is, and I don't know if this is applicable, but we have a really cool winery. It's actually the first sustainable, platinum LEED winery in the country. But Jaewon with his lab has installed a microgrid as part of that, and so it's got a 220 kW solar PV installation and a 300 kWh energy storage system using cycle-life batteries. That microgrid could serve as a test facility in some way, I guess, although that's probably a field trial. But I just pointed out because we've had experience kind of scaling these things up, and that can be relevant perspective. So this is kind of a general repeat of what I just shared with you, but it's in prose, and so you can review that when you get access to the slide. With that, I think I covered it. Unless there's anything else that you think I should add, Tenley.
I think you did a wonderful job covering all of the capabilities. And I know that you have, I think, 3 projects currently working at UC Davis. How has your experience been so far in getting all of that, the statements of work and everything together, working with the entrepreneurs from CalTestBed?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good experience to kind of go through it. I think it's a really spelled out process, both in terms of connecting our researchers with our research team that run the facility laboratories and that would do the testing, and the entrepreneur. I think it's pretty clear about what the goals are and what our kind of parameters are, and working together to kind of identify that scope was a pretty smooth process, I would say, which was nice to see. It did take a little time to make sure that we had some of the paperwork signed. I think what's nice about it is I hope that that's like the last time we have to do some of that master agreement paperwork between CalTestBed and UC Davis and the Energy Commission and get it all approved. And there is obviously a process with each entrepreneur, but I think that generally is pretty smooth. We actually haven't started the testing yet for our 3. One of them got delayed just because entrepreneurs, they do go through different challenges, and so there was we were supposed to start I think already this month, and I think we're pushing it to April. And I think the way that I'm going to give you all the credit here, Tenley, that you've designed the program to accommodate that flexibility in schedules is really helpful. And there's so many things that happen in a research environment, right? Obviously, COVID was something that kind of put a strain on things, but even beyond that, there potentially might be something on our side which delays it just because of when we have availability in our chamber to do the test. And so there is flexibility built in, which I appreciate. I know the entrepreneur in this case that was like, I need to delay this. We're like, okay, we can make this work. So that worked out pretty well. I'm going to defer to my colleague Camille, who's she doesn't have to put on video, so I'm not going to put her on the spot. But if she has any comments on how things went from a finance side, because she's been working with me to make sure these contracts get
yeah, sure.
dotted.
I mean, yeah, I really have to echo, I think, what Ben had said. It did take a little bit of time to get everything set up, but it was pretty smooth on our part, compared to other contracting processes. And Tenley, your group has been really helpful. I think when we did have questions, you responded right away and, gave us really clear direction. Yeah, I found it to be a pretty nice and, smooth process.
Brilliant. And I know through this first year, we had our growing pains in terms of putting those agreements together and figuring out who was responsible for invoicing and providing the training to work in our grants management system and all of that kind of stuff. But I think in this coming year, those things we've learned and made improvements so that this process will go more smoothly this time around. And so I'm really looking forward to working with our UC Davis colleagues on this in this upcoming year. I see that there is a question in our Q&A box that says, is Delaware incorporated startups, are they, with a California office, are they eligible? And yes, any organizations often incorporate in Delaware because of tax purposes, and that is absolutely fine. Having an office in California and having all of your paperwork or whatever's required with the state of California to operate within the state, as long as all of that is in order, those organizations are eligible for this program. Other questions that come in sometimes are around the California eligibility, and we're really focusing on making sure that the companies that we support through this program are companies that are going to provide benefits to the California ratepayers. So the CEC really wants to see companies that can define the benefits that they are going to provide to the ratepayers of the state. And so that's part of our question, and we've actually, part of our application, and we've actually made that piece a little bit more granular and have asked organizations to estimate the number of jobs they might create and their go-to market plans a little bit better to help us understand what their goals are. Additionally, we've also, in our initial application process, we asked generally about the innovation, and we provided that to the labs to see if the labs could accommodate the testing that these organizations needed. We found that information to be a little bit too vague for the laboratories, so we've rephrased that question about to ask the entrepreneurs to describe the types of testing that they need or that they're requesting, and how each lab of their 3 preferred laboratories, what capabilities at those labs they would want to utilize. And I think that will help the laboratory folks get a much better understanding of whether or not the capabilities that they have on site can accommodate the entrepreneurs that are looking to work at their laboratories. I see there's another question that's come in. Can person and company apply for 2 centers in 1 company? No. So entrepreneurs can only apply for one CalTestBed voucher, and we can only accommodate the entrepreneurs at 1 facility. So we can't have you hopping from campus to campus to do your testing. Now, with the entrepreneurs working with the principal investigators on campus, there may be facilities that, multiple facilities on that campus that might be utilized in some of the testing, different types of capabilities within in that facility and on that campus could be part of the testing protocol, but we cannot have entrepreneurs going from one campus to the next campus to another campus. The average amount of voucher, I think, is $215,000 over all 26 of the companies that were awarded this last round. And just as for your information, any statement of work that comes in with a budget of the maximum $300,000 does get extra scrutiny from the CEC staff that reviews and approves these statements of work. We're really looking to make sure that we provide very targeted testing and that we have enough funding to fund as many of these projects as possible. So we're trying to make sure that we're eliminating waste wherever that's possible. And any budgets that look like they're padded or incorporate too many requests, I think the CEC will be pushing back on those a little bit and asking entrepreneurs to reduce their scope and budget if they're overly inflated. I see another question has come in. Oh, I'm sorry. This says, sorry, I meant in one university. So yes, as I mentioned, within one campus, there may be multiple capabilities that are utilized in a testing protocol. And Ben, you might be able to speak to this a little bit better because you've been involved in developing those statements of work and you have a really good understanding of how many of the different capabilities on campus you're able to utilize or incorporate into one statement of work.
Yeah, I think it would really depend on the technology, but because we're all at the same institution, we're able to put together a scope of work that could cut across personnel resources at multiple centers. I probably wouldn't anticipate that would happen, just because there's typically a facility that you're using, and so in the facility that we're using, you know, is run by a certain set of personnel, which are either at the lighting center, it's like they're physically located and manage that facility. So where it was being tested would most likely be who would be testing it, right? Define who would be testing it. And so, but I don't want to rule that out, right? I guess it depends on the technology. And there are some interesting ones when you think about controls, which I know you don't just fund software, but if it was a software, if it was controls combined with some sort of hardware, depending on it, it could be tested actually at any three of those labs potentially. But again, I doubt it would be. I doubt you would test it in both places, you know, because it seems like then there'd be two separate technologies. But I guess I don't want to. You know, part of the fun of working and doing what we do is that there's always new technology. So let's see what it is, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, and on my side, in terms of the CEC's thoughts on this, their determination was that all of the work under a statement of work has to be conducted under one principal investigator. So we can't have multiple principal investigators across multiple laboratories overseeing the work. It has to be a very specific testing protocol that's defined under the statement of work under one PI. So that's how we look at it from an administrative standpoint to make sure that we're trying to be as streamlined as possible. Additionally, a lot of these labs are what are known as recharge facilities. And so some of the UC campuses have facilities that are used to taking in external clients to conduct testing for them. So Ben, I can't remember if UC Davis is a recharge facility or not. No? Okay. Well, I just wanted to make a note of that. I think UCLA is one. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there are some facilities that if you can't get all of the testing done that you're looking for in one shot, there may be some mechanisms where you can utilize additional laboratories under this recharge facility agreement. but that would not be part of the CalTestBed funding. That would have to come after you've completed your CalTestBed testing protocols, and then you would conduct that as a private organization.
Yeah, and we're capable of doing that as well, but there's recharge rates, and then there's just scope kind of contracting, and so we're certainly capable of doing that. We do that all the time, and but not the way we just don't call it recharge. It's not how we do it.
So there's still a mechanism for external organizations to access your facilities for their testing for a fee.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's not like a fee. Like we charge what it costs us to do it, right? We have to it's the same kind of thing. We have to come up with a scope of work. What's nice about this is that it's all done and it's paid for by the Energy Commission, right? Through this program. And I think it's such a great program because it allows, promising startup companies to get access to, facilities that can be a third-party validator of the solution that you're developing. So, but yeah, we do this before CalTestBed. We did this all the time. We still do this kind of outside of the CalTestBed program. We've been doing it for 15 years. But what's nice, I think, again, CalTestBed has a slightly different approach in terms of its outreach to make sure that we're finding those technologies that are out there with different entrepreneurs that have different perspectives than might be, come from a large company. We work with large companies as well as small companies. And so this gives smaller companies a chance.
Brilliant. Yeah. And then we got another question asking if there's a quota of awardees for the 4 different regions. It is not necessarily a quota. In our last round, we determined we were going to identify the top 6 to 8 between each of the 4 regions. So it's not a quota, but we try to have a vaguely similar number in each region to ensure that we can fund programs throughout the state of California, and the entire entrepreneurs throughout the entire state are benefiting from this effort. So we try to find a range that are a group of outstanding companies that are highly rated by all of our technical reviewers, and then see how everything falls out after. It's not a quota. It's just as we are looking at the scoring and the regions, we try to have a range of applicants that we're going to be able to recommend from each region. So one region in the last round had 6, while another region had 8 that were recommended. But we try to make sure that it's within a little bit of a range. Additionally, if anybody out there that is listening to this information session knows anybody who's interested in this program, please feel free to send along the information. We're trying to broadcast this opportunity as widely as possible. We're really also trying to make sure that we're reaching out and inviting entrepreneurs who are underrepresented in the field. With our outreach, that's a way that we can get a broad diversity of entrepreneurs in our application pool. And I was really excited that 25% of our applicant pool had some sort of designation. So either a minority business owner or women business owner or veteran. And it was really nice to see that at least 25% of our applicant pool had that kind of designation. And we did show some diversity in our last applicant pool. We're always looking to improve on that. But if you have anybody that you know might be interested in this, please encourage them to apply. And if there's no more questions, and if Ben doesn't have anything else, I want to thank you for your attention. Please contact the info@caltestbed.com email if you have any questions, but otherwise, please look at the application manual and the facilities directory for any information about the application, and start your application today. Ben, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate this partnership between New Energy Nexus and UC Davis and the rest of the UC family. So have a great afternoon.
Well, the feeling is mutual. And little known fact, we are a spin-off of New Energy Nexus from way back when.
Oh,
So
wow.
we got our start with the seed grant from when you were called CalCEF. There was a seed grant that launched our center, our institute. So we have a special place in our heart for you guys at New Energy Nexus. So thanks for all you do.
Our pleasure. Take care. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, you too. Bye.